Um, the question is, why don't you believe in Jesus Christ?
Yes.
I am a 17-year deconstructed ex-evangelic Southern Baptist Christian. The reason I don't believe in Jesus is every church I have visited and been around is nothing but full of hypocrites, fear mongrels, and they bash you with Bible verses if you don't adhere to the teachings that they teach. And every single church teaches it differently. And I'm somebody who questions everything. I have seen religious elitism my whole life, and I am 56 years old. I live in the South. Every religion, especially the evangelic church, thinks they are the elite religion, and they think they know everything about God. Where I have found out it's actually inside of you. You don't have to be in a church. Your spirituality is inside of you. Just be a good person. Because most of the people I have met in church, they are not good people. They teach fear. When you're little, they teach you how much loving God is and how Jesus is and blah, blah, blah. But then when you get older, oh, you're going to go to hell for that. They condemn you for every little single thing that you do. And my wife grew up, her father as a pastor. She went to Liberty University, graduated with 2 master's degrees, and that's when her deconstruction started.
Yeah, I know you died.
That's why so many people have left the church and they do not believe in Jesus. It's the actions that they witness from the people who say they are Christians.
Yep. Can I respond?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a few points here because I used to hate Christianity in general. I thought that the Christian hypocrisy was a reasonable a reasonable reason to just toss it away and not take Jesus seriously or examine his historical teachings. But when I would say, first of all, Jesus, he taught that he was God and he entered his own creation as a suffering servant. He was a servant to humanity. He experienced suffering and even unalivement. He was the most loving and the most equitable teacher throughout all of human history. I would argue he created a foundation to not be racist, not treat women unequally, and to not abuse children. He preached directly against those things, and he showed God's not partial to any one person. He showed God's unconditional love for all people, especially those who did not know him. So there's a lot of people, when they examine the Gospels, they actually take them seriously. What they'll see is Jesus is critiquing most harshly and actually condemning certain people to hell. And that group of people that he's condemning to hell are religious hypocrites who are preaching the words of God. They're carrying out the law. They're doing what God says in the law, the 10 Commandments. But their hearts are far from God, and they don't actually love God, and they don't actually love people. They just love themselves, and they love the image that they can portray, abusing God's word to do that, to take advantage of people and win more power, wealth, and influence. So the first thing when considering Jesus, we need to look at what he actually said and taught, because he was the person, I would argue, the person that gives us the most foundational and evidential, the most amount of evidence to see a God that actually loves all people and teaches us to treat other people with equality and to love people as we want to be loved. I know the golden rule occurs in other places, but Jesus Christ was the person who really nailed that in to humanity, and he really started the movement that's changed humanity forever towards women's rights, towards the rights of slaves, the humanity of children, towards not being a racist and having a foundation to actually love people and love God.
Well, here's the thing. Jesus didn't write the Bible.
No, his eyewitnesses did.
Well,
and they wrote
right.
a lot of
Eyewitnesses who have interpretations of their own things. And
Yes.
that's the
Can I
thing
tell
about
you one?
religion.
I want to
It's
tell you one.
everybody's interpretation of it. That's why people are leaving churches in the groves. They are just leaving them because they see so many false and so many lies and so many things. I personally am a very spiritual person. I believe you do good into others and they do good into you. I do not believe in Jesus.
Do you know
I
what
don't.
do you know what the main demographic of Christians in the world is? Because it's still the one of the top growing religions in the world. I would argue it's probably the top one.
I got water. No, I know.
Do you know what the main
No, I don't.
demographic is? It's colored women. Do you know where the centers of Christianity are?
No.
The center of Christianity is Africa, South America, and the underground church in China, which is giving a ton of hope to people who are being oppressed by their government. Jesus Christ is he's still being taken seriously in parts of the world. It's just certain churches will have preachers that don't actually live out Jesus' teaching. And I'm sorry that happens. It does happen, but Jesus Christ criticized the leaders of his church, his Jewish religion. He criticized them the most highly because of this exact thing. He didn't want God to be misrepresented in the eyes of people. He didn't want people to be led away from him, which is exactly what you see happening in the seminaries. In the seminaries in America and in England, that is the number one place that people leave Christianity, is in college, in the seminary, going to be a pastor. That's the number one place where
Absolutely.
people leave. And it's not because of the teachings of Jesus. It's not because of anything that Jesus ever said. It's never because of what Jesus actually said. It's always because of hypocrisy or some sort of argument for they haven't been taught the right way growing up. They haven't seen the right way. They haven't discovered
Well,
truth.
that's the issue I have because every religion thinks they're the right way. I call it the religious elitism because they think their way is the only way. When Christianity is very well noted in ancient times, they bullied, they killed. If
Not
you
for
were
the
not a
first 3
Christian,
centuries. Do you know? Have you
oh,
read the earliest? The first
it
3
was
centuries.
it started in like the 7th and 8th century heavily
No.
and went on through.
So the first church, the first followers of Jesus, if you study them, were being persecuted by several Roman empires for the first 300 years after Jesus' crucifixion. They were saving people. They were saving children. They were educating women. Suddenly, women were getting educated because of this movement of Jesus. They were treating slaves with more equality. They were the foundational to abolishing slavery. They preached against slavery. For the first 3 centuries, you see a lot of exemplary Christians, some who are not, but most of them were, and they were being persecuted. So again, the argument that Christian hypocrites are a good reason to reject Jesus is not a good rational argument. Jesus was the most beautiful person who ever lived. He was the most beautiful person who ever lived, and anyone who is being a hypocrite and treating someone with inequality, not respecting their neighbor, they are not taking Jesus seriously.
Oh, you have no idea. I'm a gay woman who lives in the South. I've heard everything from Christians. Christians are the most evil people I have ever met in my I'm 56
That's
years.
such a harsh judgment. There's over 2 billion
It is
Christians
a
in the
true
world.
judgment. It
There's
is
over
a
2
true
billion
judgment.
Christians. The
And I
most
can promise you there
Oh,
are there's
goodness
hundreds and
gracious.
thousands of people who
Judgmental. You're really gonna call out a third of the world's population as being the worst people in the world? And by the way, Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, they're the most charitable organizations in the world. For centuries, the Catholic Church has been. For centuries and centuries, millennia. The most charitable organization in all of human history, Catholic Church, by far. By far. Ugh.